everyone. This is Hunter Carpenter, Director of Public Policy with the Agricultural Retailers Association. I'd like to thank you for being on today and welcome you to the ARA webinar entitled Fleet to Field, Data Drives Dollars and the Digital Acre. Fleet optimization has revolutionized many industries, including construction, transportation, and aviation. Agriculture may have lagged behind these markets, but real-time data is changing that. Ag retailers and large growers now have the opportunity to derive detailed insights about the performance of their application and tender fleet and convert data into cost savings, operational efficiencies, and potentially incremental revenue. See real-world examples from ag retailers today and find out how the activity of an agricultural retail fleet can be viewed not only by what it does across a workday or season, but where opportunities exist to better rationalize the size, equipment mix, and logistics of the fleet to improve the company's bottom line. Thank you all for joining our webinar today. Just as a reminder, it is being recorded. I've muted everyone except the speakers to avoid background interference, but you do have the ability to ask questions along the way in the chat function that you will see right here, showing you how to ask your questions. We'll save those for the end of the webinar. As we move along, I would like to introduce our presenters today. We have Steve CUBBAGE from Farmobile. He's the Vice President of Services for Farmobile, based in Leawood, Kansas. Farmobile is agriculture's independent data company, a leader in enabling farmers, ag retailers, and ag channel partners to automatically collect, organize, and share a standardized data set of agronomic and machine data from a mixed fleet of ag retail and farm equipment. With 30 years in boots-on-the-ground farming, agronomy, and precision ag leadership, Steve joined Farmobile in 2018, overseeing services to help customers stream top-quality, ground-truth Farmobile collected data into their systems and software. Steve serves as a guest columnist for Farm Journal Media and president and CEO of Record Harvest, a progressive agronomy services company he founded in 1999. Fourth generation on the family's Nevada, Missouri farm, Steve graduated from the University of Missouri-Columbia in ag economics and journalism. He says it's still a bit of a mystery how an ag journalist ended up in precision ag, where he learns something new every day. I'd also like to introduce Ross Pudence from Countryside Cooperative. He's the operations manager for Countryside Co-op, headquartered in Durand, Wisconsin. Founded in 1998, Countryside Cooperative is a locally owned full-service and supply cooperative. Ross has extensive experience in fleet and agronomy management. In 2015, he joined Countryside as location manager for the co-op's Wamedy operation. He later became the Southern Territory Manager, overseeing operations and staff for Countryside's Durand, Fall Creek, Osseo, and Wamedy locations. Prior to Countryside, Ross managed a John Deere dealership for 4 years. He grew up on a farm north of Carroll, Iowa, and graduated from Iowa State University in 1999. Our other panelist is Andrew Lambert from Centra Sota. Andrew is the Technology Services Manager for Centra Sota, based in Buffalo, Minnesota. Founded in 1922, Centra Sota Cooperative engages in the businesses of agronomy, energy, feed, and grain, country stores, and other services. Andrew grew up picking up rocks and milking cows on his family dairy farm just west of Buffalo, Minnesota. While attending North Dakota State College of Science and the University of Minnesota Crookston for a crop production degree, Andrew completed 3 internships that shaped his career: the Winfield Master Agronomy Advisor Intern Program, the Winfield Ag Technology Specialist Intern Program, and the Centra Sota Agronomy Sales and Marketing Internship. In 2016, he joined Centra Sota as a crop advisor and recently assumed the role as Technology Services Manager, where he maintains a holistic precision farming program that allows farmers to use their data for insights that have never before been measured. He credits his absolute enthusiasm of commercial agriculture to growing up on a farm and work experiences in the field. His priority is to bring the best grower insights to meet their operational success goals. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Okay, thank you, Hunter, for those introductions. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve CUBBAGE, as Hunter said, Vice President of Services here at Farmobile. And today, as Hunter mentioned, I'm joined by 2 gentlemen from the ag retail space that we've worked with for the past few years. And we're going to have a candid conversation with them regarding how they're using data to drive efficiencies within their fleet operations. So for you in the audience out there who may be part of ag retail, obviously, some of these questions that I want you to be thinking about as we go through this presentation today is really just how efficient is my fleet today? And probably the second question, or the better question, is how do I even tell how efficient my fleet is? And then at the end of the day, how can I use data to drive ROI within my fleet operation? So one of the things you're going to hear about a lot today is that word data. We're going to use that data a lot in this conversation. But when you think of data in agriculture, particularly when it comes to the precision ag side of things, a lot of it centers around and has centered around the agronomy data that we're so used to collecting over this past couple of decades. So we're talking about grid soil sampling data. We're talking about VRT prescriptions that come about because of that data. We're talking about as applied data or as applied records that as we spread these applications on the fields. And then we have, the good old farmer yield map that's been around since the early 90s. So when we think of data, that's probably the first thing that comes to mind, but we're going to talk about something in addition to that today. And so we tend to pat ourselves on the back for how far we've come in this industry, but the fact is we are lagging. And that was kind of evidenced by a 2017 McKinsey Group study that took a look at 22 different industries, agriculture obviously being one of them. And unfortunately, in that study, as far as the digital being able to, in the digital age, they ranked us last of the 22 industries they looked at as far as being the least digitized. And so that was a little concerning, and it's even more concerning to find out that the government did better than agriculture. So, but we are continuing to evolve, and the Internet of Things is obviously here, that we're proceeding forward. We're going to talk a little bit about, in addition to agronomic data today, how that we can basically fast forward and move ahead in the collection and using this data. So next slide, please. So when we take a look at these industries, I thought, and as Hunter mentioned, there's two that I want to really highlight that kind of parallel what we're going to be talking about today. And those are the transportation and delivery industries, and then the airline industry. So when you think of transportation and delivery, one of the first names that come to mind is UPS. And what is UPS known for? Well, one of the things that they're known for is their efficiency in delivering, obviously, packages, but they're also knowing that they try to avoid left turns at all costs. So they've discovered that by not making those left turns, that makes them more efficient. At the end of the day, what does that do for them? Over an annual basis, well, for UPS, that saves them over 10 million gallons of fuel. They basically are able to deliver 350,000 more packages, and they're able to do that with 1,100 fewer trucks. And so that is what the power of data and logistics can do for you on what UPS is discovering. For Southwest Airlines, they're, are really known in the industry as having their act together, and their average turnaround time is literally only 42 minutes. So what does this all relate to and mean for ag retail? Well, Southwest Airlines is a great example, because if those planes are sitting on the ground, they're not making money. And in the case of an ag retailer, if their fleet is not in the field working, they are not making money. And so really it is about that working time. When that machine's up and running, you want it to be working and basically be the most efficient it can be. So we're going to take a look at that today. Next slide, please. So first of all, before you do any of this data analysis and basically making decisions and really going through it, you've got to have data. And I think that's the first thing you really have to do is like how best to do that. And we at FarmMobile, have worked to basically make this simple, but also streamlined but also very robust. And what you see here on the screen, you actually see a FarmMobile puck device that basically I call it almost like a Fitbit for a machine. So being able to plug into a machine and be able to stream data about that machine, its performance, and many other things we'll take a look at here in just a second. But with that, we're able to stream that data and information from that machine in real time and project it onto a dashboard. So literally a couple of seconds after it's happening, you're actually seeing what's going on from a machine standpoint, even if you're a manager or fleet operations in fleet operations or agronomist, checking on a grower, we can do that. So next slide, please. So as mentioned, one of the things, we're very familiar with as applied strategy, being able to get as applied, after a job is done in the field from these machines, being able to transfer prescription files to those machines. That's the power of real time, being able to do that very much more efficiently because we have devices like I just showed you. But the third thing that really makes this a triple play and a little bit unique is the fact that we have fleet management that comes into play now, where you can actually see your machines live and be able to access machine utilization performance data in real time. So that is really the triple play that's being brought to the table here, because now we have a standardized set of data flowing from all machines, regardless of a mixed fleet. So, I mean, you can have a rainbow of colors like Andrew's probably going to mention, but we're able to do this across all machines, standardize it, and literally, in this case, we can start comparing even apples to oranges and have good comparison data. So we can do that on, sprayers, applicators, tender trucks, across an entire fleet. So it's really something that you can leverage across your entire organization. Next slide, please. So the third thing that, because now you have this data, you can really start to take a deep dive on an individual machine basis, but rather than just having the number of hours that's being racked up on a machine, now we're able to take a deep dive on 4 different categories that's coming directly off that machine. That is working time, transport time, idle time, and basically headland turning while you're in the field. At the end of the day, guess what? The only one that's making your money is that working time. So what we've done here, though, is take that data that you would typically get and turn it into a kind of an advanced service. We call it, instead of white glove, we call it an orange glove service, that our services team is taking this data and really broken it down for our customers like Andrew and like Ross to be able to say, okay, what does this mean for me? And I want to use some of my numbers as far as, engine hour cost. What does it cost me to run that machine? What is my labor cost? And what is my fuel costs? And then we can literally apply that to each individual machine across the board, that you can really take that deep dive that you see here. Next slide, please. At the end of the day, what do you want to know? Am I making money? When that machine is out there in the field, am I making money with that machine? So one of the things you have to look at is, what are you also charging to be out there applying that product for the customer? So if you look here, what we've got is kind of taking a look at, average application cost for that customer. In the case of sprayers was $8 in this case, $8.50 for spreaders. And am I below that line or above that line? If I'm above that line, that means I'm not making money. That machine's costing me more than what I'm taking in and being able to get a return on investment with. Take a look now here at sprayer number 3, because the next slide, if you look at this, You know, sprayer number 3 had making money. If you look on the right, it was below cost. But the question is, just because you're making money, the question is, can you make even more money? Because if you look on the right, literally the working time, there is almost, as far as cost wise, almost twice as much idle time as far as actually there was in the time that was working. So just because you basically, you know, are making money in one side, you dive even deeper into the data and finding out really the breakout of what's going on with those particular machines. And can idle time be improved? Could transport time be improved? And we're going to talk a lot of that with Andrew and Ross that's coming up. So next slide, please. So I'd like to welcome Andrew Lambert, Technology Services Manager there at Centra Sota. They're in central Minnesota. And Andrew, welcome to today's webinar, and certainly kind of give us a background of you know, your role there at Centra Sota, but more particularly just hone in on your experience of how FarmMobile was adopted by your organization and where you started with that. And I'll chime in as far as ask you questions of where you've gone since then.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. As Steve mentioned, my name's Andrew Lambert. I work with Centra Sota ever since I've gotten out of college. So I've seen everything from being the crop advisor to hauling anhydrous tanks, and most recently, I'm the Technology Services Manager. So Technology Services at Centra Sota is really kind of all the misfit pieces as far as precision ag hardware, nutrient management, advanced nutrient management through farmers' data. And farmer data and co-op applied data is really how we started off working with FarmMobile. We were looking for a solution to collect 500,000 to over 1 million acres worth of as applied data at our cooperative level each year, and join that together with farmers data. So the FarmMobile was a solution for us at the time. One of the main reasons is because we do have a mixed fleet of equipment out there. You know, we're in a very diverse region of the state, right in central Minnesota. The 10 to 15 counties that we operate in, we see clay to sand to black dirt that's 2 feet deep. And the diversity we see in our soils, we also see in our machines. I think we have 4 different brands of sprayers across our locations, 4 different brands of fertilizer application machines across our locations. So being able to collect that as applied information on those different brands and get it into one standard format for us to be able to use for our potentially our liability, providing as applied information to the state when required, to the farmers when asked, and then also being able to collect that as applied information really opened up the door into the other features that FarmMobile you guys now offer, which is fleet metrics. So being able to quantify our use time, not only you know, what we're applying, but how much time we're specifically allocating to get in idling and transporting and working to get that product applied. So that's kind of been our path. It's kind of really started with a solution for collecting as applied at scale, and is transformed most recently into the fleet metrics portion.
Yeah, so you've been this is your 3rd season, Andrew, with FarmMobile, and so what are some of, you've obviously kind of took the more traditional agronomic route because you're obviously working with agronomic data from the get-go and using it for some of the common purposes that many ag retailers do. But what have you learned, or what was some of the greater challenges, or that was addressed by some of this, being able to see your fleet in real time, and also now that you're starting to see some of the fleet metric data, what are some of the problems being solved that you saw?
Well, like I touched on first, one of the biggest problems was we have John Deere sprayers, Case sprayers, Ag Chem sprayers. They all have potentially different monitors in the machines, and those monitors have all their OEM software to be able to view the as applied. So the biggest hurdle right away was collecting that information across different brands. That you guys were able to solve that for us by working on a mixed fleet of equipment. I don't think that's ever going to change with us. We're not going to sign one big giant John Deere contract. So that was one of the biggest hurdles. After that, I mean, you can start diving into some of the day-to-day stuff. We're able to problem solve real-time situations that we run into, as far as making sure a sprayer gets put into the right field, isn't misapplying on the neighbor's field. And I've seen kind of a transformation at some of our agronomy locations at different levels, depending where you go. You'll have anybody from a crop advisor to an operations manager watching our machines live on the big screen in their office. You know, if you think about a newspaper room, chances are they got CNN or Fox News playing on the big screen all day. You know, you can walk into a certain percentage of our agronomy locations and they'll have Farmobile plant. That's going to really has helped us not only make sure the machine's in the right field, but down the line too as well, we'll be able to track that as applied information and say, yeah, we were in the right field, the product got put on at the right rate, so on and so forth from there. So.
Awesome. So next slide kind of tells us a little bit of a story. You know, we're talking about, you know, that fleet consolidation, you know, being able to take some of this data and look at it. You've got 3 years worth of data to look at. So that was kind of a benefit as you did adopt kind of that fleet metrics services side of things, that you could start to really look at historically perspective of what was going on within your fleet. So next slide, take a look at it. You know, you've got a lot of machines. I mean, not, you know, it's not overwhelming, but there's a lot of stuff going on here when you're starting to look at machine data. And so the question is, you know, how do you take this and boil it down to something that's usable? So I think the next slide will kind of give you a talking point, Andrew, is that you had that first slide with all of those machines coming from all different locations, but now you've got something here that we've broken down for insights, kind of the average work rate by activity, by location. And what does this do for you?
Yeah, no, so I love that the previous slide and this one comparing the two. You know, we have 60 plus machines with a Farmobile device in them right now. When you start looking at a graph with 60 machines on it, it's like, oh my gosh, where do I even start, you know? And the ability that you guys have unlocked for us is start to breaking it down, not only by location, but individual activities. You know, we're a full service agronomy provider. We spread lime. We put on custom anhydrous in the fall and in the spring. We spread spring, fall, summer. We're spraying, we're fumigating, ground going into potatoes next year. So being able to dive deeper into locations and different activities is really going to be our pathway into identifying areas of improvement. You know, in the past, you know, spring and fall, they're rushed for us. We don't have a lot of time to sit down and drive around and watch a machine and see what it's doing all day. And we're not going to have probably to some degree that amount of time to sit and watch Farmobile either. But the month by month breakdowns are going to be able to allow us to not only look at a month when it shows up, but when January rolls around and everybody's got a breather from the fall, or July rolls around and everybody's got a breather from the spring, we can look back and see where we spent our time, what goals we've established, and have we made any progress on those goals as far as improving efficiency on our transporting time, any of the other metrics that we're able to look at as well.
Well, certainly I know that, you know, being able to look at data, you know, one of the things you wanted this data to come in here, you know, and get fleet metrics up and running, just because the data, you're going into being able to purchase or wanting to purchase obviously machines going into next year. How is this going to help you be able to kind of go through that process?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that identifying, you know, how many acres each machine is doing, and from there, you know, deciding, hey, are some of our locations running a higher efficiency, more acres with less machines, and vice versa. We'll be able to dictate, hey, we're getting, you know, 50,000 acres out of these 3 sprayers at this location over here. We've got 6 sprayers doing 75,000 acres. You know, what is happening? You know, I just think about if we have 60 plus machines running, and conservatively they cost you know, they can cost $250,000 a piece. On a 10-year rotation, you're looking at managing, I don't know, $15 million worth of equipment. So keeping an eye on anything from engine hours will help us pick out, hey, these machines, they're getting up there. Our main operations manager has an idea what the market does. If we get over X many thousand hours, the machine really loses its value. Maybe it's time to trade it off, you know, for a newer type of machine that we bought the previous year, and maybe we can go back and evaluate that machine, see how much faster, or see how many more acres that one's able to get done on variable rate jobs or a flat rate job, just because we got a machine with a 2-ton bigger box on the back of it for fertilizer. So it's definitely going to have a play on when and how often machines get bought and sold. Also with what locations are up next to get the new machine on their lot. So.
Okay, perfect. So next slide, we'll kind of just wrap it up here on you know, that if there's just a couple of things to highlight, you know, we've obviously gone through several of these. So this is just kind of a bullet points of some of the things that we've gone through already. But, you know, if you had to wrap things up on your side, where do you see this going in the future, and how do you plan to continue to evolve the use of this data? Because I know that you just continue to take deeper and deeper dives, and hopefully, you know, what is it going to do for your organization as a whole?
Yeah, so I mean, keep in mind, we're talking about machine efficiency here. I don't want to disregard the as applied record keeping. We really think that being able to have a standard source of data coming in to be used on whatever platform a farmer may be using, or whatever platform we as a co-op may be using to provide agronomic insights, is definitely going to continue to be a path that we're going to utilize FarmMobile for. Going from there, like you can see on the last bullet point here, this fall marks our year number 3. We're going into year number 3, full fleet adoption of FarmMobile. And quick insights show us that we really didn't change our time percentages as far as working, transporting from 2019 until this year. There were significant years in that we probably had a higher prevent plant in 2019, record moisture. We would assume that 2020, with great conditions all year long, we would have had better efficiencies. And being able to be a couple months in on this fleet metrics, we can realize that no, we didn't do it. So what that's going to do for us is be able to provide a foundation to set goals for improvement, and in turn be able to measure if we're meeting our goals and what dollar amount that's actually can provide us. I have no doubt that if we're on a $15 million cycle every 10 years with our machines, that the number that we can save or be more efficient with is going to be pretty eye-opening. So
yeah, wow, definitely. So, well, that's a great one to just kind of leave it with. And Andrew, thank you very much for contributing here today. I'm going to just take and continue on with Ross, because I think that that efficiency as far as from one year to the next is that something that we've talked about. So Ross Prudence of Countryside Co-op there in Wisconsin, operations manager, he kind of took that deep dive from the very beginning and kind of just, Ross, give us kind of the quick journey of basically how you've adopted this fleet metrics piece within your organization from kind of a trial to a full fleet. And we're going to take a look at some graphs that tell a really good story here.
You bet. Everyone hear me okay, I think. So it says I'm working, so we're going to go with it. Yeah, so like Steve said, this is our second year. We did our first year, it was in 2019. We did 10 machines as kind of a trial to see how Farmobile would work in our fleet, how we could use it, how effective it was, that type of stuff on the analysis. And then what we did is this year we pucked our entire fleet, all of our application equipment from the small little spray truck that we still have to do all them little weird fields to the biggest spreaders. We have everything with a puck in it, and utilizing it very similar to how Andrew over at Centra Sota is. You know, the as applieds are huge to come in, and one of the big things that we like is the same thing that Adam talked about a lot was the, you know, we got a mixed fleet as well, and we have one platform that we're doing all of that on. You know, it's very nice. We don't have a John Deere, we don't have a Raven and all this other stuff that we have to deal with and subscribe to and manage data plans and all that. It's one shot with Farmobile. It's very, very simple and easy. As we got going and looking at a lot of the data, that's when I kind of piped up, because I love digging into this type of data, and it was amazing the amount of data that we could get and analyze and get right down to each machine on how it's working, and you know where we can improve and ROIs on machines, and really took it to the next level once we got going. So
okay,
go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so we'll flip here to the next slide. I think kind of some of those bullet points that, you know, we'll just highlight, and we'll see this in some of the pie charts in the following slide. In fact, let's just go to that, and because I think it really tells the story, and if we need to, we can even flip back to this. But next slide, please. So, well, this is a slide that, you know, one of the things that you know, kind of the genesis of some of this fleet metrics was lease hours on a machine, and being able to track that and keep a running kind of running totals of different machines. So this is one of the benefits of kind of the fleet metrics, I think, for you guys, is literally just kind of see at any one time you can see a snapshot from month to month of where you're at engine hours across an entire mixed fleet. Correct, Ross?
Exactly. Like this slide is very handy. You know, you look at the 3 different sprayers. I will say sprayer 2 is, I think this was like a 1 or 2 year older machine, but if you compare sprayer 1 and sprayer 3, those are the same year machines. You know, being able to rotate them machines around, you know, get them so they're at, you know, 900 hours a piece instead of one at 720 and one at almost 1100. You know, balance it out so you got them across your fleet and get full advantage of the hours that you paid for on the lease. So
yeah, so that's, I think, very important, and as far as just understanding that. And then you know, next slide I think is really important, because this is kind of the data that impacts your organization, and you've actually you know, kudos to you and your team there, that looking at this from 2019 to 2020, you know, the thing that pops out right off the bat is that idle time. And you know, you've really impacted your organization and really been on this because you had the data to hopefully move the needle from one year to the next as far as percentage wise. What can you kind of say about that? And then we'll kind of flip back to kind of what that meant for working time as well.
yeah, definitely. You know, and this is one of the huge benefits of Farmobile, is that real-time data. And that was key in getting our idle time reduction of almost 6%. 6% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you turn that into dollars, which when we go back to the other slides, we'll see, it adds a lot of dollars to the bottom line. So, and where the real-time data comes in is when you're watching these guys, like similar to like Andrew, where he says they got the TVs on with the Farmobile on there, same in my locations, and you can watch them work, and then you can click on them, and you can see how they're going through the day. And when you see a guy struggling, you know, with the reports at the end of the day, you see his idle time is consistently 45, 50%. You can talk with the location manager or you know, myself or whatever, and get out there and talk with that single applicator, you know, and work with him on an individual, him or her on an individual basis, and get their idle time better. And
so idle time seems to be the low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's just something that everybody looks at first, but you know, and I think in your case, I mean, it's tens of thousands of dollars that probably move the needle from 2019 to 2020. But you know, as you know, one of the things that is kind of that added benefit or double bonus here is that seeing that transition of actual idle time reduction and turning those hours actually back into working time. So literally, you kind of see that with the graph there on the right. You're just seeing the gain in productivity in acres covered per hour, per engine hour on these machines. So you're seeing almost a 25% gain in acres just by doing that. What does that do for your organization and obviously from a revenue standpoint?
I'll use pretty simple math, because I know, you know, depending on where you're at in the United States is what you're going to be charging per acre. So I can just say, you know, you compare the bar graph on the right side of that screen where it's 2019 to 2020, it's, you know, 6 acres an hour difference. So say that machine's putting on 10 hours a day, you know, that's 6 acres every hour. So at the end of the day, you're covering 60 more acres. So it's 60 more acres that you can bill out, and that's just for the sake of simple math. Throw $10 in there for per acre charge. I know some areas don't get that, some areas do, but we're just going to throw that in there. It's $600 a day, you know. Yeah. And say in a busy spring year, 2 months, say you run 40 days times 60. I mean, 24 grand, just like that.
Yeah, and that's just on one machine.
Exactly.
So very good. So next slide. So just kind of, you know, as kind of a wrap up, I mean, there's a lot of things that we've got listed here, but if you had to identify like 2 or 3 things that really impact your business and mean a lot to you, as far as, I mean, you've really taken the bull by the horns here and really dove deep into the data to change some things with the organization. What have some of those changes been, and what's highlighted here that you just maybe 2 or 3 things?
You bet. First one is the idle versus work time. I mean, like you said, that was the low hanging fruit. That's the first one to go after. The most logical. We made big differences in that one, as we talked about. So I won't talk on that one much. The next one would be the high and low performers. So this one is very important from a management standpoint and employee relations, if you want to say. You know, you take your high performers that everybody has, and then you look at your lower performers, and you got to evaluate what do we have to do to get them lower performers at least up in the average. You know, and a lot of that is, you know, going to go to my next bullet point, train what you see. You know, that was a big one, because you would see these lower performers, their idle times are 45, 50%. And I'll use one great example. What I found out is one of the spray applicators who was consistently high idle time he needed to learn how to run his tender truck better, you know, how to mix everything up. So his mix times were excessively high. Once we got that figured out and spent some time with him in the field, his idle time went down to 35, 40, you know, 35%. in a matter of a week or two. And then he became one of the highest production sprayers out there. So
Yeah, that's huge. And one of the things that looking at some of the things that you've done almost mimics some of the things like UPS learned from their logistics piece, is that you've also been able to reduce the number of machines and actually cover more acres. I think that's a good note to kind of leave it on, but just kind of explain kind of what you've done so far and what you even look forward in the future, because obviously increasing those number of acres per hour has made a difference.
yeah, and I know in some of the reports that we've worked together on, Steve, one of them was pretty neat if you compare from year to year, and that is acres per machine. The first time I saw that report was like a year ago. It looked like, a rainbow or a valley. It was all over the place, ups and peaks and valleys all over. This year, it really leveled out. There still have some peaks in there, which the lower performers are more up there. So we don't have them machines that we're seeing only a few thousand acres, but every location manager saying we have to have them. So what we did is we got rid of machines. We cut 5 machines out of our entire fleet this year, and production went up. Efficiency got better because they realized they had to. Basically, we had to get more acres per machine because we have less machines, and it worked very well.
Well, and that's, as far as if you're not replacing those machines, that's a 7-figure dollar bill, 7-figure plus dollar bill that's not on the book. So that's very impactful, I would think.
Yes, absolutely.
So, well, Ross, thank you very much for your input and insight on this. You've been great to work with, and we're all learning in this together as far as what this data means, and you've been a leader in that, so appreciate it. And then next slide, I'd like to just kind of thank everyone for participating today, and bring your attention to, this is an offer along with the Ag Retailers Association that put together that, during these tough economic times, that every dollar matters in fleet management. And ARA has established a fleet optimization opportunity. I would encourage all of you attending here to check it out. And it's a great way to kind of dip your toe in the water to understand, how your fleet's doing, and see how real-time and agronomic data collected across the mixed fleet can really save you money and time, and also create ROI opportunities that you may not have known were out there. So the goal is to become digitally engaged and get that digital acre and get that across an entire mixed fleet. So if you want more information, certainly go to the websites you see there listed on the screen for the fleet optimization opportunity here today. So this is a demo opportunity, so certainly next slide. You definitely, if you have any questions, contact even myself directly at the 417-448-7885 number, or Donnie Taylor there at ARA at 202-595-1725. And so thank you for attending. I think we've got time hopefully for a few questions if we'd like to open it up, and for especially to Ross and Andrew that you may have for them.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for the panel? There is a chat function that you can enter questions for the panelists. I tried to trying to unmute all participants in case we want to use that function as well. You should be able to unmute yourself. All right. Well, seeing no questions, I want to thank everyone for joining today. Thanks to Steve and his team at FarmMobile, as well as Ross Pudens and Andrew Lambert. Again, my name is Hunter Carpenter with the Ag Retailers Association. A reminder that this webinar has been recorded and will be made available in the password protected member home section of the ARA website. You can also look for a link in next week's newsletter. I'd also like to highlight that registration is open for our virtual 2020 ARA Conference and Expo, December 1st and 2nd. Rates do increase November 16th, so please take advantage of the rates while you can, and we hope to see you all there virtually. Thanks again to everyone for attending today's webinar. Have a great week.